Hey y'all, what's going on? I'm Ted, and this is my rec room. Well, it's part of it anyway. A little different setup here. I usually don't have anything going on in the background except my bookshelf, but I thought, why not? I had this set up from the previous update video on Majora T, my gaming channel, where I do gaming commentary and whatever else is on my damn mind. And yeah, I thought I'd use it for a little bit of a book talk. I recently read this. About a month ago. It's a nice, quick, short read, but very helpful in the self-help genre. 10% Happier by Dan Harris. How I Tamed the Voice in My Head, and yada yada, so on and so forth. There's a huge subtitle here. I'll read it out to you. Reduce How I Tamed the Voice in My Head, Reduce Stress Without Losing My Edge, and Found Self-Help That Actually Works, a True Story. So essentially, the story about Dan Harris is that he was a news anchor on, I think it's ABC network, and he did a lot of news coverage. He started out kind of as an inconsequential news anchor, but worked his way up in the ranks. Eventually went to, I believe, Iraq or Afghanistan during the war between the U.S. and the Middle East in the 2000s. And he came back and, he had a national or a panic attack on national television during a live video. And just brain shut down. And nobody else really recognized it, but he did. And he was dealing with a lot of anxiety. And he recognized that, there's this voice in my head that says all of these terrible things about myself, about other people, and in this kind of work environment that's competitive and where you're fighting with other people to get certain stories, and you're gonna make judgments about yourself. Why did they get the job? Why do I suck? What's wrong with me? And he talks about how he looked to meditation as a practice to help combat this awful, negative, terrible voice in your head. And it's very interesting because he kind of takes you through the ropes about how he perceived meditation culture and this kind of yoga culture as I don't know, kind of hokey, as not what it's made out to be. Oh, you got to cross your legs and you go chant and say and it's ingenuine. So he didn't really like the idea. But one thing that Dan does throughout the book is he explores a lot of his biases and how he confronted them and was actually making assumptions about people just on appearance, and was really living into this idea of falling for that voice in his head and believing things about himself and others that weren't always necessarily true, and came to see people who you normally wouldn't think highly of in a new light. And I think what's really helpful about this book is that if this has been a year of intense stress and just living inside of our heads and being exposed to all different types of negative media, and it's been really hard to turn away from, but that there's a method that you can use and implement in order to combat a lot of these negative stressors. And this is really cool. Even when you finish the book, in the back, there's actually 5 unique meditation strategies that you can apply that he goes into throughout the book. I wouldn't skip right to them. I would read through what his experience was in discovering a lot of these things. Along the journey, Dan meets a couple interesting people like Eckhart Tolle, and then a couple other meditation gurus. He goes on a meditation self-help retreat. He's got a friend in the kind of business in New York, and so he goes around trying to find answers and learning about what is the best meditative strategy. And he ends up studying a lot of Buddhist philosophy and finding out what are some of the secrets from that. A lot of people tell him things that help him combat a lot of the reasons he thinks it's hokey to begin with. And I think like if I think back to what were some of the most helpful things that were said in this book, one of the things that was said was like, we tend to think about mistakes that we've made in the past, or we tend to think very far in the future. And one of the best things you can do is live in the present. Be present now, because what you do now matters. What you did then, okay, it's done. What's done is done. There's no going back and changing it. But being here in the present is one of the most healthy things you could do. And vice versa. If you live too much thinking forward, okay, what will this do for me then? And like, how will this help me? You are now thinking too far in advance, because like, it's okay to do that to some extent. But when you start obsessing over like the future and things that like that may not benefit you in thinking about them, that's not really going to help you. And then another thing too is that he says this voice in your head is not you. And it's hard because it's your voice, you're thinking it, you're thinking these thoughts, but it's not an indicator of you. So if you have like negative thoughts coursing through your mind, whether it just be like bad thoughts about other people or yourself, or just things that you're not particularly proud of, it's just a voice. And you can just continue to remind yourself that. And that's one of the key practices that you can do, is to actively just think. It's not even that you have to like close your eyes or like cross your legs or twiddle your thumbs. You can just actively think, spend 5 minutes a day doing this, where it's just okay, get in a comfortable position, sit up, just breathe in and breathe out. And breathe in and breathe out. And while you do it, your mind is going to wander. And it's okay to let it wander a little bit, but while it does, you just remind yourself, I'm just letting my mind wander. And I'm just thinking. You can think to yourself, you can think the words, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and do that for 5 minutes. And then what I'm saying is like, your mind will wander from those thoughts, and they'll think, wow, I should have done the laundry today. And you can remind yourself, okay, it's just a thought. No problem. I'm going to return back to this. And you forgive yourself, and you practice this idea of forgiveness. And by actively telling yourself you are in control of these thoughts, you are taking control and ownership over it. And just like, that's one form of meditation you can do. There's a couple other cool ones. I haven't experimented with all of them. Like compassion meditation, where you kind of like meditate good thoughts upon yourself and upon other specific individuals. There's like something called walking meditation, and then there's a few more. So if you're interested at all, this book is super cheap online. I got it for a couple bucks, but it's been very helpful. It's one I would highly recommend, and even just owning, just so you can have those strategies on hand. But that's my thoughts about 10% Happier. Have you read it? What did you think? If you haven't read it, are you interested in checking it out? Thanks for watching. This is Ted. This has been my Rec Room, and I will see you with more content to come. Good to see y'all again.